Hello, thanks for watching this video. I'm going to do something really different this time. This is not really intended to be done on the scroll saw, but I'm going to try to use a scroll saw to do it. It's this little model of a destroyer. Now, this comes out of a wood magazine. They have several of these kind of military spec plans. There's a few of them right there. I've got the helicopter and the Abrams tank, I think, already. And if this is successful, and I think it will be, I'm going to try to do some of the others. This one's going to be difficult in that the full length of this thing is 22 inches. My scroll saw is only 16. And in this one, they cut it on a bandsaw. But I'm trying to make this a scroll saw project. And this is the blank. I've got 2 blanks made up. I've got another piece of 1/2-inch poplar for the other blank. It requires 3 blanks. I've scanned the patterns, got them to proper size. And this, you can see that, if you can see that line right there, that's how much over I am the 22 inches. Now, it's got to be cut at a 14-degree angle. And my table only tilts one way, so I'm going to have to cut it, or try to cut it, in a way that it swivels around the front of the saw instead of the back of the saw, because I don't have room down the throat for this to swing around inside. Now, what I've done is I found a piece of old scrap. It's, I think, a piece of pallet wood of the same length and width, and I'm going to test cut that to see if I can do it. Probably going to have to unmount my saw from its mount and put it up on the table at a corner where I have room to maneuver, because it's going to have to swivel out the front of the saw, and I'm going to have to be able to move around it to get it cut. Don't know that I'll do it. If that doesn't work, I have a couple of options. I can cut this blank in half and then cut the front and put it back together, or I can downsize it, just refigure all the dimensions to get it down 6-7 inches. But I'm going to try first. I think, looking at it and analyzing it, I'll be able to cut it the way it's laid up. I can start right here and go around, or right here and go around, and the saw will, the piece will rotate around the outside. But I'll test it with this other piece. And first I'll have to remount my saw probably, because I'll need some room to work around it. So this, if I can get that done, the rest of it I think is easy. Mine's not going to be as fancy as this one. This one's got cherry and maple in it. I'm just going to use poplar for the whole thing, just to see if I can do it. You know, this is as much a test as anything. So hang on, and we'll get set up and see if I can test cut that piece. Okay, I've got the saw put in a different position so I have room to maneuver. I think I've got room for this to swing around. I've mounted this pattern just right on the wood. This is just a test cut. I'm not real concerned about it being a perfect cut. I just want to be able to make the cut. So I'm not sure what blade is in there, but it's going to be sufficient to cut this. It's just a piece of scrap, and we'll see if I can make this cut on the main piece. So anyway, here we go. We're going to try it. Well, I do believe I'm going to be able to do that. I started on the wrong line there to start with. That's a good reason to do a practice cut. The hardest part is getting started because you're right up against the back of the saw right there, but I was able to get it in there. It may require a little, on the final work, it may require a little sanding to smooth everything out. But I am able to make that cut with the angle on that piece. That was my test piece, so I think I can do it on my blank. If I mess it up, it's not the end of the world. It's just poplar, and I got quite a bit more of it. And so we're going to proceed on. I'm going to mount the pattern, leave the saw where it is, and try to make that first cut. For the next step, the aft of the boat is narrowed a little bit from the full width. I've got that pattern over to cut these lines. I'm also going to trim it right there. That gets it to the exact length it's supposed to be. Probably doesn't matter, but I'll get some of that evenness off the end. And then I have to rabbet this down. I think it says there are 3/8 because this is a helicopter pad. So right now I'm just going to cut this little bevel off of here. Now the next step I'm going to take, I've got to rabbet this this section down right here. That's where a helicopter platform is supposed to be. So that's going to be right at that blue tape. I've got my table saw set up with a 1/4-inch dado set. Got the fence set the way I want it. So I'm going to take it over there and do that. So according to their step-by-step procedure, got to cut this. It's called the foredeck. It's got a drawing of it here with the dimensions. It's beveled on these faces right here, 14 degrees. So I've got a piece of 1/2-inch poplar. I'm going to draw those dimensions on this poplar and make those degreed cuts on the table on the scroll saw. In fact, I'm going to try to cut the whole thing on the scroll saw. That's my intent. Do everything I can on the scroll saw. This is not a scroll saw project, but I'm trying to make it one. So that's my next step. I'm going to try to do that. Now I'm going to draw that little pattern, hand draw it on my board here, and then I may have to break it down to get to it on the saw, but then I'll cut those angles and everything there. Okay, so I've drawn that in the middle of the board. Did that because these lines I have marked with an X are going to be angled. The bottom is going to be wider than the top, so I need to cut in the center of the board to have the material sticking out. These lines will be 90 degrees straight up and down. I'm going to have the corners cut off of it. But these are angled at 14 degrees, with the bottom being larger than the top. Now I'm going to set up my crosscut sled on my table saw to make this cut right here, and then I'll do the rest of it on the scroll saw. Now, while I still have the pattern on here, I scribed these lines into the wood. I've got this hole marked from the bottom. I'll mark it again here, but got these marked because this piece goes right there. And so now I'm going to pull the pattern off and glue that on. So the next step they have is to cut this aft deck, which is this piece right here. Move that over. This piece, or this piece right here. What they're doing in this is they're cutting it in 3 pieces. You got a center piece and there's 2 side pieces. I'm going to try to draw this all in one piece. You got beveled cut here and here, just like on the foredeck. But I'm going to do it all in one piece, I believe, or I'm going to try to. So let me get that drawn out, and I'll get it on the saw. What I did next, before I got too carried away putting superstructure on it, I had to have a counter hole bored on the bottom. That's 3/4 inch, 1/4 inch deep, and I wanted to drill that from the bottom, of course, so I need to set it upside down. So I went ahead and put that in. with a 3/16 hole going all the way through. That's going to be for a little deck gun that swivels. So I went ahead and did that before I got too carried away up here. So I'll see what's next as far as building the superstructure. What I'm going to work on here is the turret gun that's going to swivel on the front of that. It's got to be a 1/2 inch wide this way. Got to be 5/8 inch tall, and it's got to be 7/8 inch long. Now this has got to be angled 11 degrees. I'll have to get my protractor and do that. And then I'm going to go to the sander and kind of take the corners off all of it. Got to drill a hole in the bottom for the bolt that it's going to swivel on, and a hole here for the cannon that's going to stick out. So right now I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm going to figure my angle. So let me get that drawn on there, and I'll just cut this out. So that's the little piece I cut out. That's the shape it's in. I did these corners on the belt sander. I had to tilt my table on my drill press, and I drilled that. That's an 1/8 inch dowel. And I had to drill a hole for this, and that's glued in there. And it fits the little hole that I drilled through. I got to deepen the hole on the bottom, so I can get a nut on the bottom of that and a washer. But for now, I'll be moving that out as a finish. I'll probably mount that permanently later. But anyway, that was the next step. And now we'll go on and see what the next step is, which is we're going to start on the superstructure. And that'll be where we are. We finished the first set of steps, which was to lay the hull. This is what they call laying the hull. This is the point we're at. So then we're going to start on the superstructure. And we're going to get the tower base, which is going to sit right here, I do believe. That's the tower base, I believe. But we'll see. I'll have to get the dimensions on that and start laying that out. I did missed one step on laying the hull. He's got these missile hatch covers. They sit right here and one back here. They don't say, I can't find anywhere in there what material they said to use, but I've got this that I ripped off of these when I made the original blank. So there's about, according to the pattern, that's about 2 inch by 1. I'm going to make them both the same size and glue them into place. Okay, I'm having to do some configuring and planning. This is the tower base that I'm trying to cut now, which is this piece right here. You see it's got these two little wings on it. So what they do in their plans is they cut this out separately. They have, it appears to be 1.5 inch maple blank. And then they cut the two little wings off and glue them on. Now they got the, here's the pattern for the tower base, and here's the little wing that they glue on each side there. So what I'm going to do, I've drawn this on this 1.5 inch blank, and I'm going to cut the whole thing out to these outer lines to start with, just square. And then it's going to be like a compound cut, and then I'm going to flip it and I'm going to cut this section out below it to leave that little wing sticking out on the top. And then I'll cut these corners off to give me the shape that I want. I've tried to figure this out, because what they do after they cut this out is they plane the rest of this blank down to 1.25 inches. I didn't catch that the first time I ran through. I would have just made a separate blank for this and have me another 1.25 inch blank. They use these to make the little towers. These towers right here, this little tower and this little tower, that's what they're going to use the rest of this blank for, but they cut it down. Anyway, I'm going to have to do some reconfiguring as I go, because I'm not going to cut those two little extra pieces. I'll make that one solid piece. That's my plan right now. But first I'm going to go to my table saw and make that first cut right there to get everything good and straight. May even make this cut with it. And then I'll come in and undercut under those wings, and then cut the bevels on it so that it'll all be nice and smooth. So that's my plan right now, and let me get this cut out and I'll get it to the scroll saw. Okay, I got the basic block cut out, the outlines of it, and I've marked right there. I want to cut this section right here off of each one, and then flip it up and cut these lines right here. At least that's my plan, to cut these lines and then these lines. Well, there's that piece cut out. That was in their plan. That was 3 separate pieces. But I made it all one. Just got to do some cleaning and sanding and straightening up there, but that's basically it. It's going to sit somewhere right about there. Have some stuff and a little tower on top of it, and a little thing right here, and then some more stacks on these places, and that's just about it. But we got to figure out how to make these others, because that's going to be kind of a process too. But do a little sanding and cleaning on this, straighten up some areas, and we'll see about getting it put on. So I've got the little tower base made, pretty well finished off. I need to do a little more sanding on it probably, but it's pretty close to where it's going to be. Next step is we want to build these 2 towers, exhaust towers I think they're called. Anyway, whatever they're called. They're layered in 1.5 inch thick pieces. See, they're stepped up here. This one's just a solid conical tower. I think it's got 6-degree bevel on it. So I'm going to rip some 1/2 inch. Still got some 1/2 inch poplar. They cut down their cherry and they used cherry in that. And they started out with an inch and a half blank, cut this out of it, and then planed it down to rip these 2-inch sections out. Well, I'm just going to use this. I got enough. If I rip an inch and a half off the end of this, I got enough to make that one side have enough to make this one tower, and I'll cut another one and have enough to make that tower. Basically, I'm going to glue these together, and then I'll cut the bevels because they're less than 2 inches tall. I'll cut the bevels on the scroll saw and then kind of sand them smooth. But first I got to rip this, and then I'll layer it together and figure out how to cut it, and I'll do that for both of those. Yeah, I've got this front exhaust tower cut and holes drilled. I figured out where I need to cut it to get that 6 degree. I'm going to cut all 4 sides, and I'm going to do it like this. Go from the thick end to the thin end. I think that's what I'm going to try. And I've already drilled the exhaust holes. Now we're going to see if this works. If not, I may have to redo it. Okay, so I got these little stacks cut. I did cut that on a scroll saw, and then I cleaned it up a lot on a belt sander. Same thing with this. I'm not super happy with this right now. I may redo it later, but I'm going to go ahead and use it now. I don't like the way that it drilled. Didn't come out exactly as square and straight as everything as I wanted, but I'm going to go with it for now to build the other pieces. So the next step is there's a little, what they call a Phalanx platform. It says right here. It's a little small piece. It shows here it's 1/2 by 1/2, and it's got a 14 degree cut on the front of it, a bevel. It don't really tell you how long it is, but I'm going to look at the exploded view. It pretty much matches. It's a little shorter than this distance right here. So I've drawn, this is a 1/2 inch piece of material. I've drawn a 1/2 inch, a line a 1/2 inch down. I'm going to set my saw to 14 degrees, and I'm just going to cut that length off, that end off, and then I'm going to cut it to length once I get it cut off. Okay, this is almost done. Kind of cover what I did here. These are actually little finials for like doll furniture. They used wooden balls in the pattern. I didn't have anything, so I just adapted and put those on. The other pieces are pretty much by the pattern. That's a 1/4 inch dowel with 1/8 through it. And what I did, I drilled a 1/8 hole through a piece of basswood. This is it right here. I drilled that 1/8 hole and then measured where I wanted those two holes to go and drilled through. I didn't quite get center, but I was close. Then I had to cut this apart to get the dowel out of there. It was jammed in there. But that works. I got it in there and got a little slight angle on that. It's 5-degree angle. I've got a couple of more little items to put back here. They're little small pieces. I'll put those on and then we'll see what the total finished product looks like. So I'll be back in a little bit with that. So that is the finishing touch. That's the little torpedoes on their launchers. Now those very small pieces, I don't work well. I got big hands and big fingers. They could have been better. I just don't work well with small stuff. But anyway, that's pretty well the finished product. There's some finishing. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do to finish it. Wife kind of said something about finding something to kind of stain or finish to give it a gray look, but I don't know yet right now. I kind of like to live with something a little while and think about it and look at some photos before I do a finish on something. If I don't already have it planned. Anyway, that was just basically this was a big experiment. This was not supposed to be a scroll saw project. And I thought I'd see if I could make most of these pieces on a scroll saw, and I could say I made 90% of it on the scroll saw. Some of the stuff, if I made 2 of these towers, first one I did on the table saw, and it worked fine. Then I came back, I didn't like the way the holes looked in it. Came back, did it again, and cut it with a scroll saw. This was cut with a scroll saw, and most of these pieces were. But then you have some drilling and you have some things that you can do with the table saw. The helicopter pad I did with the table saw, that is just too thick to cut with the scroll saw right there. But anyway, there's the finished product. If you like these models, I got some more that I'm going to try. Same thing, they're not really scroll saw projects, but I'm going to try to make them so. I'll do as much as I can on scroll saw. So, if you like that, hit the like button. If you have any suggestions or any ideas, well, please leave a comment. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.